it's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Great to have you with us on this Thursday edition of the show. Penultimate show of the week. Got a lot to do. Bob Nightengale will swing by. Haven't talked to him in a minute. USA Today's senior MLB writer. Whew! Yankees whooping it up on the Astros. Oh, Yankee baseball. Summer of New York. I keep telling all of you. Something else. Paul Skeens is getting set to make his big league debut as well. May 11th, a couple days from now, on Saturday. He will make his debut for the Pirates. Much ballyhooed pitching prospect. So we'll talk about that. The Shohei Ohtani, Ippei Mizuhara stuff goes to another level. We'll explain how. NBA MVP voting. One famous sports talk host officially crossing over into boomer status, and I don't mean Boomer Esiason. We start things in the NBA with a Knicks team that just continues to find ways to win games despite injuries and OG Anunoby hurt, Mitchell Robinson hurt, Jalen Brunson last night. They take a 2-0 series lead on the Pacers with a win last night. More crying about the officiating from Rick Carlisle, which I'll get to in a second, as Sam Yarnell says hello and joins us for the first time on the program today, as he does each and every day. I'll tell you, Sam, look, I don't know how they're doing it. You know, we've barely even touched on the fact that Mitchell Robinson's not playing. Now you get Brunson, who hurts his foot last night, comes back in, does his Willis Reed impersonation, and leads the Knicks to victory. OG Anunoby hurts a hamstring, leaves the game, and I think that is very consequential, not just for the remainder of this series, but anything the Knicks want to do for the remainder of the postseason if he's out any sort of significant amount of time. Look, and I'll say it again, you know, Rob Parker and Chris Broussard notwithstanding, how anybody can look at Jalen Brunson and say this guy is anything other than a grade A superstar is out of their minds. And the Knicks are doing it in a way that no other team in this postseason is doing it. There's a lot of cookie cutter styles in basketball, frankly, in sports. A lot of imitation. Nobody's doing it like this, with literally a 6 or 7 man rotation and guys playing 45 minutes every night. It's something to watch.
It is. I will counter that by saying they are playing very typical Tom Thibodeau basketball.
Yes.
Now, that is to say, Tom Thibodeau is very unique in his coaching style. And I think we're kind of starting to see why. And this is a little bit of what I talked about when we were about to get started with these playoffs. And Jason was so high on the Knicks, and I was admittedly way too low on the Knicks. This is what I was always worried about, though, because OG Anunoby had 28 points last night in 28 minutes. I mean, that is a huge loss. And quite frankly, they don't win that game if he doesn't play in that game. Jalen Brunson, same kind of sort of thing. If you don't have him, even having OG without him or having him without OG, that team becomes drastically different. And Tom Thibodeau still using a 7-man rotation for all but 1 minute of this game. Shout out Alec Burks. That 1 minute really counted.
44 seconds for Alec Burks. Don't you forget it. And 1 shot attempt.
My gosh. But we're starting to see how unsustainable this is. And that really sucks. Because
we're not starting to see it yet. When you say you could start to see it is when they start losing games or multiple games. We have not seen it yet. So we don't yet know if it's sustainable because we don't know the end outcome. It's like trying to judge the experiment before the stuff stopped bubbling in the crucible there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay. And I will say to that point, the Knicks having a 2-0 lead in this series is massive right now. If they can make this a 4 or even 5-game series and hope, somehow pray that the Cavs can get 2 or 3 wins, then you start to think, okay, maybe New York will have a chance against Boston.
One thing, even if they sweep and Boston sweeps, there's still a set schedule on when the Eastern Conference Finals will start. They'll still get rest. They'll still get it. They'll both still get a lot of rest because those dates are set. So I don't think a sweep here, even no matter what Boston does, they're going to be in that situation. They're going to need the rest. And here's the one thing, and I talked about the fact that one of the things I thought played in Thibodeau's favor with this style of short rotation, heavy minutes was the fact that there's no back-to-back games. But they're playing every other day, which is still a lot in the NBA. Whereas the Nuggets get their doors blown off in game 2, and then they got 3 days off. And you're just sitting there going, man, the schedule maker gets it real nice for some people, and the Knicks get screwed on the other end of it because they're playing every other day when they're down Mitchell Robinson. They're already down Julius Randle. You got Brunson with the sore foot. You got Josh Hart playing 48 minutes every night, and you've got OG Anunoby with a hamstring injury. There is a legitimate question to be asked as to whether or not this is sustainable. We're going to find out. The good news is there's going to be an answer to that. But there is no question there is something very special going on with this group from New York right now. And no matter how it ends, if it ends in the Eastern Conference Finals, if it ends in the NBA Finals, and it ends without a championship, they will still have taken the city of New York on a magical ride here in this postseason.
I think it's interesting. And let me pose this question to you as a Knicks fan. Because I think we could agree that if anyone besides Tom Thibodeau were the coach and they were actually using a 10-man rotation, this team would be drastically different.
Maybe not better. Maybe he's using that short of a rotation because he knows what he has.
Right. So that was going to be my question. Would be at this point, when knowing that this has happened and we're starting to have these injury concerns with these huge key cogs in this Knicks team, if you could go back to the beginning of the season, would you do it all again with, say, Ty Lue or a Darvin Ham or a guy who got fired from Milwaukee for Doc Rivers? Can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay.
Adrian Griffin.
Yeah. Would I? Probably not. Probably not. I think this team's personality is very much built with the head coach in mind. And you don't hear anybody complaining about playing all these minutes. These guys want to play all these minutes. Now, sometimes you got to protect players from themselves. By the way, one last thing. Rick Carlisle. Instead of complaining about the officiating, look in the mirror. You left T.J. McConnell on the bench. You didn't double Jalen Brunson at all in the second half when he was lighting your asses up. We're back with more on Sports Wrap. Don't go anywhere.
Over 13 million Americans were affected by identity theft in 2022, and the threats go way beyond just credit card fraud. Today's identity thieves can use your information in ways that are easy to miss by just monitoring accounts and credit, like opening loans, transferring home titles, even committing crimes.
Someone got my social security number, made a driver's license, and it was used for criminal activity.
You can do so much with a social security number that I didn't know could happen. They drained my bank account. It was terrifying.
You're even more vulnerable than you realize. Your information is exposed through online shopping, banking, even corporate data breaches. No wonder there's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. Only LifeLock alerts you to the widest volume of threats all in one place, like someone trying to use your social security number, open a new loan in your name, or even commit a crime in your name.
There was a big yes button and there was a big no button. I clicked, that's not me, and LifeLock took it from there.
If you become a victim of identity theft, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will be assigned to your case and work to fix the issue on your behalf.
If something happens, you have somebody fighting for you.
All LifeLock members are backed by the LifeLock $1 Million Protection Package, including reimbursement for stolen funds, personal expenses, and coverage for lawyers and experts up to $1 million. It can be dangerously easy to steal your identity. With LifeLock, it's easy to help protect yourself.
I will be with LifeLock forever.
Join the millions of people already protected by LifeLock. And for a limited time, save 25% on your first year with promo code 25TV. All plans include a 60-day money-back guarantee.
Call 800-710-7531.
Or visit lifelock.com/25TV to save 25% on your first year of identity theft protection. Enroll now.
Attention families with a loved one in a nursing home. If your loved one has suffered from bed sores, falls, broken bones, dehydration, or even death, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. If you have a loved one who is injured in a nursing home, we will find out what happened. State violations are found against nursing homes every day. You have a limited time to file your claim, so don't wait. Call 800-398-5999 and speak with one of our attorneys. The call is confidential and free.
This Thursday edition of Sports Wrap continues. Bob Nightengale in 10 minutes, senior MLB writer from USA Today. Get his thoughts on what's going on around the league. A lot of great stories to talk about as we get ready to make our way through the May portion of the MLB schedule. We'll ask him about this Shohei Ohtani story that Sam Yarnell and I are about to discuss for a couple of minutes here. And it's a story that just gets weirder and weirder. First, we learned yesterday that you've got payments going to reality TV stars. I mean, just bizarre. The whole thing is just bizarre at this point. But what the big story yesterday was that we are going to get this guilty plea from Ippei Mizuhara, the former interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, to tax fraud and bank fraud. And it is something that has a maximum sentence if there was no plea deal and no agreement in place for 33 years behind bars. Now, my question is, first and foremost, what do we think he's going to get for a sentence? I last night went to bed saying I think it's 10. He winds up serving 7 or 8. I think in federal cases you have to serve at least 80% of a sentence. There's some rule about that. From my limited knowledge of the law, I was going to get an attorney on today, and it just made my head spin, so I didn't. But there's that aspect to the story of how much time will he have to serve. He's a 39-year-old man. He still has a lot of life left to live. So what kind of sentence is he going to get? The second thing that popped out to me, and I know it popped out to you as well, Sam, because we've talked about it off the air, is the fact that part of the agreement states, in addition to a $1.25 million fine that he's got to pay the government, they have said he is going to give full restitution. He's going to make Ohtani whole. He's going to pay Shohei Ohtani $17 million. Now, I'm just sitting here going, where's he getting $17 million? First of all, it ain't from gambling, because we know he's a terrible handicapper. So that's the first thing. I mean, we know he's not getting it there. Where is he coming up with the $17 million he has to pay Shohei Ohtani? That's what I'm trying to figure. That's the part of this story that makes you scratch your head and go, something doesn't make sense here. And I'll ask Bob about this. I don't know if it's his, if this kind of thing is his bailiwick, but I'm trying to figure out where he's going to come up with $17 million to pay Shohei Ohtani.
Jason, you say that he's a bad gambler. I say that he's due. $17 million is one parlay. I mean, come on, Ippei. Let's get it going here. Let's find the sizzles. Yeah. No, this is a wild story. The payment, the repayment to Shohei Ohtani makes no sense to me. If I'm Shohei Ohtani, I just never want to hear from this guy again. I got other places like New Balance and Major League Baseball where I can get $17 million pretty easily. I just never want to see Ippei's face again if I'm Shohei. So yeah, that part does leave me scratching my head a little bit, Jason. And then on top of that, a guy who was, before he was arrested, making less than $100,000 a year, who is now going to federal prison, and apparently didn't even have enough saved up to gamble freely with it, let alone irresponsibly. Where he's going to come up with $17 million outside of growing a cash tree in the backyard of the penitentiary, I'm not exactly sure. Again, I say this every time we talk about this story. feels like we're probably in the bottom of the fourth inning of this game right now.
Yeah.
We're nowhere near the finish line. And if you think that this gets us real close to the finish line, I promise you it doesn't.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see. I am interested in, I guess, he'll be sentenced down the line. I didn't see the exact date of when he's going to be sentenced, but I'll be very, I'm curious to see exactly how much time he winds up getting. I'm also interested, one of the things we always get in these situations is somebody says, well, it was the addiction. It was the addiction that made me do it. Oh, I stole that money from my grandmother because, I'm addicted to drugs. Or I did, I perpetrated this sexual crime on somebody because I'm addicted to sex, or I'm addicted to porn. And we have heard that aspect of this story a little bit with Ippei Mizuhara talking about the fact that he has a gambling addiction. And clearly he does. And if you're going to be addicted to something, you better be better at it than he is, because clearly he wasn't very good at it. But, look, you can laugh, but that's just the truth. The numbers don't lie. The guy lost $1 zillion.
Addiction is a disease, and if you are addicted to anything, you should seek treatment for it.
Absolutely. You don't have to tell me. I've gone through it myself. But, man, I don't think this is going to be the last time we hear the addiction excuse or the addiction mantra trumpeted by somebody who gets in trouble in the sports realm. I'm not just talking random, average, everyday people. I'm talking about athletes, officials, Tim Donaghy, all these people that sort of get caught up in this lifestyle. This is going to be something we hear again, not maybe to this degree and not this salacious type of story, but we're going to hear about this stuff again and again with the rapid legalization of sports betting that we've seen over the last several years.
Well, I think that there's another important thing that you have to talk about when we talk about the rapid legalization of sports gambling and the explosion that you've seen about sports gambling since the repeal of PAPSA in 2018. The amount of sports gambling marketing, the amount of sports gambling houses, the amount of the prevalence of sports gambling in society in general greatly and vastly outweighs the prevalence of helplines and resources for people who do get addicted to gambling. And I think that, across vices, common things that people get addicted to, that's a theme, right? It's a lot easier to buy alcohol than it is to find somewhere to go to treat your alcoholism.
Such a great
The same
point.
is the case with sports gambling.
Such a great point. And for every 7 sports betting commercials you see, you might see one, or maybe every 10. You might see one that says, hey, here are signs you might be a problem gambler or something to that effect. It's problematic. Last night I watched Inside the NBA before the game, showing, Charles Barkley and his guarantee his bet that he puts out. That was from FanDuel. The very next thing when they go to break is a DraftKings commercial. It just goes on and on and on. Bob Nightengale joins us next to talk baseball. Rolling along on this Thursday edition of the show. Thank you for being with us. Talked about the Ippei Mizuhara story, the latest development in it, in our last segment. Now I want to talk about some more baseball that doesn't involve that, at least for now. With this guy, Bob Nightengale, does a terrific job. USA Today senior MLB writer joins us on the show. I want to start with what we witnessed here over the last couple of days with the Yankees and the Astros, because, Bob, something's wrong in Houston. There is too much talent on that team for this group to be struggling as badly as it was. Did Dusty Baker know something? And I know he had issues with the front office, but did Dusty Baker know something when he walked away from this team?
No, it's they wish they still had Dusty Baker. They should have begged him to come back. I think there's been a big drop-off between Baker and his patience and Joe Espada, rookie manager. Something's wrong in that clubhouse. Guys aren't happy. A lot of impatient. Guys being pinch hit for early. Guys being dropped in the lineup without being told. So it's been a rude wake-up call for a lot of guys.
Is Espada in danger?
I would think at the end of the year, I would be hard-pressed to think it's going to happen, in the first 2-3 months of the season. But I would think be in serious danger if nothing turns around by the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, because we've seen teams that are not afraid to pull the trigger, and this is an organization now that's become accustomed to winning. What stands out to you as the reason why? I mean, Alex Bregman has been terrible so far. We saw Justin Verlander get lit up the other night. And I'll say this, I know he had a couple of decent starts before that. The one thing that concerns you early on watching Verlander in this latest return is the fact that there isn't a lot of swing and misses. Teams are consistently making contact off him.
Yeah, the swing and misses certainly have dropped down. But, he missed time and everything else. So too early to say, he's on the decline. We'll see what happens. But yeah, guys like Bregman, they got to get better. A lot of injuries are starting rotation, but something's wrong. Talked to a member of the front office yesterday, says something's missing. I said, yeah, Dusty Baker. And that's been a big thing. I think they didn't realize, exactly what they had there.
Go to the Yankees. I mean, the last couple of days, they have lit it up offensively. There are signs that, some pieces that have not been performing, despite the fact of what their record is, and it's a great record. The offense still gave you some pause outside of Soto and maybe Oswaldo Cabrera at the bottom of the lineup who surprised some people. The lineup's been kind of meh. The pitching's been holding them up. Now you're starting to see the offense catching up with the pitching. Now, granted, some of that might be the fact that they're playing the Astros. Give me some thoughts on where you think the Yankees are right now, and obviously the amazing Juan Soto, who is doing terrific things in a contract year where he's just going to make $1 zillion.
Yeah, this was the Juan Soto that was in San Diego, so I'm sure when they play there in a few weeks, it'll be a bunch of boos like, hey, how come you weren't doing this? In San Diego. So, no, it's a very good team. They need Garrett Cole back. I don't think they can go deep without Cole. I think they need that ace to step up. But, yeah, the offense has been terrific, and, they've been healthy. So, everything's going right for them. I still believe the Baltimore Orioles are the team to beat in the division. Just so much young talent. Obviously, they need to find a closer. Craig Kimbrell has not worked out, but it should be a fun two-team race. I still like Baltimore.
Going back to the Yankees, they got a couple of things that I'm wondering how they're going to navigate around. Cole's going to come back at some point. Do they go 6-man rotation? Who are you taking out of that rotation? Luis Gil has options, so maybe you send him down, but he's been fantastic. What are you going to do? They go 6-man for a month while Cole gets his legs and arm underneath him? The other one is Jason Dominguez, who starts a rehab assignment in 2 weeks. You can't bring him up and have him platooning or sitting on the bench. He's only a DH because he can't throw. Who's coming out of the lineup in that case? They've got some interesting issues when it comes to trying to make this roster fit together.
Yeah, certainly. You got LeMahieu come back and everything else. We'll see about Dominguez. I mean, they were shopping to him 2 years ago. He could have been in the Luis Castillo trade. Cincinnati said, no, we don't want him. So there's still mixed reviews on how good he is. I agree with you. They're not going to bring him up to platoon or anything like that. He's got to play every day. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him down there all year, maybe be a September call-up.
Talk about the Orioles. They tried bringing up Jackson Holliday. It didn't work out. He goes back down. Eventually, I assume we'll see him back up. They brought up Kierstad. They're slowly starting to get this pipeline into the major league system, and it's kind of a hard thing to do when you have a team that's so successful and you're still trying to integrate some of these young stars who you can't just leave on the farm forever.
No, they're so loaded down there. It's like, what do you do with all these guys? You use them for trade chips. So if they need another starter at the deadline to do that. They certainly have to have another closer. There's a reason where Kimbrel, wasn't the closer when the Red Sox won the World Series. He wasn't the closer when the Dodgers were there. So, he's a veteran. But
people aren't just giving away. But people aren't just giving away closers. And now with the extension of more teams in the playoffs, it's going to be harder to get that guy, isn't it?
It is. I'd jump all over Ryan Helsley of St. Louis Cardinals. If the Cardinals aren't going anywhere, I think Helsley's got another year after this, but he'd be a perfect candidate, and that would allow, Cardinals to kind of retool here as well.
How special is Mason Miller?
Yeah, I hope he stays healthy. I worry about that, every time, 100, 101, 102. So, he needs to mix in some other pitches. I hope he stays healthy. You worry about a guy throwing that hard all the time without him breaking down.
And you know what? The A's have not been embarrassing. I mean, they might be embarrassing at the box office, but they're not embarrassing on the field this year. That young group is finding ways to win games. Are the Royals for real? Yes or no?
I think Rule to be a contender. I think everything goes right, 81 to 85 wins, that sort of thing. So we'll see. I mean, it's the same organization that lost over 100 games in a row, 3 straight years. So I kind of looked at them. They could be like the Orioles of 2 years ago, where you're around a 500 team, but still miss out in the playoffs.
Yes or no? Do you think they will, if they're in the mix, will they go get pieces at the deadline if they have a chance to win?
No, because I think the rebuild was so painful, they're not going to trade away pieces to go for it.
Bob Nightengale, I'm going to hold you for one more. I got to talk to you about a couple other things. USA Today senior MLB writer, hang in with us. Don't go anywhere.
Attention families with a loved one in a nursing home. If your loved one has suffered from bed sores, falls, broken bones, dehydration, or even death, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. If you have a loved one who is injured in a nursing home, we will find out what happened. State violations are found against nursing homes every day. You have a limited time to file your claim, so don't wait. Call 800-398-5999 and speak with one of our attorneys. The call is confidential and free.
The one and only Sports Wrap continues on this Thursday. It continues with our friend Bob Nightengale, who does a terrific job. USA Today, senior MLB writer, giving us some thoughts on what we're seeing around the league. On the Ippei Mizuhara story, real quick. How the hell is he paying $17 million back to Shohei Ohtani? Can somebody explain that to me? Because I don't understand. Like, this whole thing is this... Every twist in this still gives me more questions. And I know, look, you're a reporter, so you have to be cynical and skeptical by nature. You have to be curious. As a talk show host, I'm always going to be skeptical and curious. There are still so many things about this that the dude lost $17 million. He never saw it. He never saw disappear. And I'm not saying he did anything wrong or anything like that. There's just still so much about this that doesn't make sense. And what really doesn't make sense to me is how this guy who was only making $100,000 a year is going to pay back $17 million.
Well, yeah. I mean, Ohtani's going to have to shoot a few more commercials to get that $17 million back. He's not going to see that money. Well, it'll be interesting when the bookie starts talking. Let's see what he has to say. So it is fascinating. The one thing, I bring up all the time is, if a guy's gambling like this, he's not going to have any facial expressions in the clubhouse. Like, oh my God, I just lost 150. Oh, I just won that one on a last-minute shot. Nobody could detect what was going on. That's wild to me. It's also, it seems far-fetched that if you're this kind of debt gambling, you're not going to bet on the sport you know the best, which is baseball. You're having inside trader information, seeing the clubhouse. I worry about there's going to be a scandal in baseball at some point. Besides this, there's just with gambling being so prevalent now in baseball, the guys in the clubhouse, the trainers, people like that, they know what the lineup is before it's distributed to the gambling sites. So someone's going to say, you know what, let me help with the gamblers here. Let me get some extra money.
Paul Skeens, the Pirates are bringing him up. He's going to pitch this weekend. And obviously, much ballyhooed prospect, the number 1 pick in the 2023 draft. Can't really be surprised. I mean, he's done everything there is to do now already at the minor league level. What's the point of keeping him down there, right?
Yeah, why waste those bullets in the minor leagues? Let him get 120, 130 innings in the major leagues. And sell some tickets. Be fascinating to see what their ticket sales were for Saturday 24 hours ago compared to when they announced that Skeens is going to make his debut.
Talk about where the Pirates are, the Reds, that NL Central sort of where it is, and feeling like, a lot of teams in that division have to feel like they still have a shot, don't they?
They do. I mean, that division is so wide open. Very disappointing the Reds. I thought they could win the division. The offense has been terrible because they're pitching pretty good. So they've been a big underachiever this year. We'll see the Pirates. They always tease you with these starts year after year. It's like, okay, enough already. No one should get excited about the Pirates until the end of May. So they're not a bad team, but, they should be better than this right now.
How embarrassing is it for Major League Baseball to have a Marlins team that's as bad as it is right now down there? And not just the on-the-field product and the winning and losing, and I think they were 10-29 going into Thursday, but the dysfunction around it, letting Kim Ng get away in the offseason. Give me some senses to the frustration level right now with that Miami franchise.
Yeah, I mean, they, this offseason, I like the fact they said, okay, fans can bring in musical instruments, bring in your trumpets and drums, everything else, just like they have in the WBC, it's so electric in the Caribbean World Series. But yeah, it's a very, very disappointing. I mean, obviously they're going through a huge fire sale. That's why the manager, Skip Schumacher, said, hey, do me a favor. Will you rip up my club option? I don't want to be here after this year. And he'll be a hot commodity. Of all the free agents out there, he'll be right there with Alex Cora as far as one of the top free agents. But yeah, you always hate to do a fire sale. And, Marlins have done this so many times.
The San Francisco Giants, I thought they could be a surprise team out there in the National League. I loved their offseason. I thought, they did everything they possibly could to improve this club. Ohtani didn't want to go there. He wanted to play in LA. They went and did everything they could to possibly improve this team. Why have they fallen so far short?
Well, they're the pieces that you love, they all fell apart. Blake Snell has always been a notorious slow starter. People wondered how he would react going to a new team. It's been a disaster. I mean, that's why the Philadelphia Phillies, the Yankees, Mets wanted no part of him. They just didn't think he could pitch out east. Granted, I think once he gets comfortable, he'll become a better pitcher. Matt Chapman, he struggled last year with the Blue Jays after April. Well, those struggles are still going on. Soler, he's done nothing. Now he's on the injury list. So all those free agent pickups that got people excited have all been bust so far.
The Nationals. I'm asking this one for our friend Sammy Arnell, who works on the show. The Nationals are on the come. I mean, 18-18, some of those young prospects. Talk a little bit about what Nat Washington's been able to do early on in the season.
And that's right. When they traded Juan Soto to San Diego, was a great pickup. They got the right pieces. C.J. Abrams got a chance to be a star, and they still have Wood, and people think he'll be a superstar. So a lot of times those prospects don't turn out. In this case, it did. I think Mike Rizzo is a master at rebuilds. I mean, he built that thing up from scratch and made him a perennial winner. They won a World Series, tore it down, and here they are again. They're probably a year or two away because the division's so tough with Philadelphia in Atlanta, and we all know the Mets are going to spend some money. But Rizzo's done a terrific job there.
Yeah, he really has. And boy, you ain't kidding. That National League East at the top with the Phillies playing the way they are. And the Braves as well. Bob Nightengale, check out his work. He does a terrific job. USA Today, senior Major League Baseball writer. Thank you, my friend. It's good to catch up. Be well.
You too. Take care, Jason. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. We got a lot more to do. Something to consider right around the corner on Sports Wrap.
Are you or a loved one dealing with an addiction? Call now to receive this free book to help fight common misconceptions about addiction and rehab. You'll learn why rehab is beneficial and necessary for the road to recovery. Tips for choosing the right facility, the costs and payment options available to you, and what to expect. This free book will guide you through the many questions you have about staying sober and finding the right help. Discover topics like a family's role in addiction and recovery, repairing relationships, and how to stay sober after rehab. The path to recovery isn't easy, but we're here to show you that there is help available and that you're not alone in this fight. Please call today and get this free book to rediscover hope and sobriety. Life is precious. Let us send this free book to show you hope does exist. Your call is confidential and there is no obligation.
800-825-1596, 800-825-1596.
All right, odds and ends in 10 minutes. I've got something in odds and ends that I did not write into the plan for the show that I have to mention. A bet that is still available, that if you're not running to your nearest legal bookmaker, Ippei Mizuhara, if you're not running to your nearest legal bookmaker to make this pick, you are out of your mind. Something to consider, Sam Yarnell, yes.
I actually, just for the folks out there, I just wired 50 grand out of Jason's account. I'm going to put it on that bet later today.
You'd never be able to pass for me. Our voices aren't even close. You'd never be able to pass for me. Certainly not visually. Certainly not visually. One of us has a giant coif of hair and one of us has, 4 strands that he's wrapping into a circle to make it look like he still has hair. All right, something to consider. I got 3 quick ones here. Reggie Miller. F around and find out. Oh, the boogeyman's coming back to Madison Square Garden. We can't even play it on the air, which is really sad, and it makes me wish we were on a streaming platform or something like that where swearing doesn't matter, where cuss words don't matter. Because last night, the Garden fans, as the time was winding down and the Knicks were wrapping up a victory over the Pacers in Game 2 of that Eastern Conference semifinal series, you had fans chanting, F Reggie. F Reggie Miller. Or F Reggie, or whatever it was. And then it got even better because the TNT crew did everything it could. Brian Anderson, who hates New York, by the way. Brian Anderson despises New York. All you have to do is listen to his play-by-play. That dude hates New York. Everything another team does against New York, loves it. All out of his seat, out of his mind. New York does something, it always comes down a little bit. Comes down a little. Brian, we're on to you. So they're saying F Reggie. And then TNT does its best to ignore it. They don't even say anything, even though it's loud and clear as day. So Josh Hart said, no. He walks over into Reggie Miller's open mic and says, hey, they're yelling, F you, Reggie. And he actually says the word. And it gets into the mic. Best thing that happened all night. F around and find out, Reggie Miller. Nikola Jokic is your MVP. I don't have a problem with the fact that he's the MVP. You could have taken him. You could have taken Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, thrown them all into a bowl, picked out a name, and you would not be wrong. However, Jokic getting 79 first-place votes out of the, I think, 100 that are out there, or 99 first-place votes that are available. Him getting 79 of 99 first-place votes, something's wrong here. Whatever happened to best player, best team? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? I mean, if SGA didn't earn a number one, more first-place votes, then I don't know who did. I feel like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got screwed in this whole thing. What do you think? Not saying he should have won. Far. I'm not saying he should have won. But 14 first-place votes? For SGA?
Yeah. So I think SGA and Luka both got kind of shorted, but I also think that it's like Shai and Luka both had their struggles, especially Luka at the beginning of the season, and got red hot late, whereas Jokic was lighting the world on fire for the first month and a half of the NBA season. I believe he was leading just about every statistical category except for 3-pointers made. You're talking about a guy who finishes, third in rebounds per game, 10th in scoring, third in assists as a 7-footer. When we talk about value, it makes sense over the course of the season why they chose Nikola Jokic. I'm with you, though. I would have liked to see 20 for Shea, 15 for Luka. I think that would have made it a little bit. And I mean, really, there's one person who voted for Giannis Antetokounmpo to win the MVP. I'm sorry. Giannis Antetokounmpo caused more problems than he solved this season in Milwaukee. And that's just the truth. They built everything around him, and they brought in Dame Lillard. And what happened? Giannis drove out the coach that had led them to a historic start.
I'm just getting word. The same person that voted for Giannis for MVP? Oh, okay. It's the same person that didn't vote for Derek Jeter for the Hall of Fame. I'm just being told. It's the same idiot. Yeah. Okay, thank you. We have now confirmed.
Yeah, the interns, they're
Sports
always
Rap.
on it.
Sports Rap Central is they've confirmed that to be the case. Patrick Beverley being investigated. It's an assault on my senses. So look, you want to talk about what went down with him last week, and nobody was more critical of him than I was. Suspend them, fine them.
Amen.
We don't need to arrest the guy. We don't need to arrest the guy for throwing a basketball at a fan. Nobody got hurt in the making of this video. Let's bring the temperature down a little bit. I mean, pretty soon it's going to have to be like hockey. We're going to have to put glass around the court so that fans and players can no longer interact. TJ McConnell was almost getting into it with Knick fans last night. Like it was getting ugly with him and Knick fans. And I'm like, TJ McConnell, they will F you up in New York. Come on, TJ McConnell with the fake tough guy act. Your coach didn't even think you were good enough to be on the floor in the fourth quarter of this game. Shut up. Pipe down.
I will say, with regard to the Pat Bev show thing, by the way, subscribe to the pod. Anyway, I think that it's just been blown out of proportion tenfold. It was stupid in the moment. No one will disagree with that. But come on, don't arrest the guy.
No, we can't arrest the guy. Odds and ends are next. Alrighty, just about time to put the wraps on this Thursday edition of the show. Don't forget, check out the podcast. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, anywhere you get your podcasts. Go and subscribe to Sports Rap with Jason Page podcast. Now, without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. Look like you're chomping at the bit. You all right there?
If I may, just really quick, Jason, to reiterate what you said, subscribe to the pod.
Yes, subscribe to the pod. Otherwise, I'm not doing your dopey interview. I don't care who you're with. You hear me, 99 Rock WPLR. I'm not coming on your dopey morning show with Chaz and AJ. I love those guys. I'm just kidding. I'd always go.
But they need to subscribe. Chaz and AJ subscribe to the pod.
Chaz and AJ, you should subscribe to the pod if you want me to come on your show. You know JJ Redick is on fire when he's in the news for the dumbest reasons imaginable, right? When people are just starting to take shots or snipe or whatever it may be, that's when you've made it. That's why I've never had to worry. Colin Cowherd yesterday. Somebody I've known for a long time. We're not as close as we used to be. I won't lie. I won't call him a friend because he hasn't returned many of my texts these days. On his show yesterday with Jason McIntyre. This is what Colin said in response to seeing a video of JJ Redick on his podcast interviewing LeBron James. In the interview, JJ Redick dared to wear a hat basketbackwards. The rest takes care of itself.
I'll take one for sure. Don't love the backward hat for J.J. Redick.
You're going to open with that. Redick's got an interesting look. Collared shirt, backwards hat, tatted up arms.
I didn't hear a word LeBron said. I couldn't stop staring at the hat. J.J. Redick's going for NBA head coaching jobs. He looks like a guy that's going to move my couch. Didn't like it. I would tell J.J. to his face. I'm like, dude, you're going to be an executive in this league. You're going to be a high-level executive or coach. Well, whatever. You guys can go ahead and push back on that stuff. I didn't like it. It's my opinion, my show. Our show. I don't like that look at all. You are going to be an NBA coach. He's one of the most cerebral guys in the world talking basketball. Literally, he's so layered beyond. He's Christopher Nolan in Hollywood. He is directing at a different level. J.J. Redick is talking basketball at a different level. And look at this guy.
So, you know what this...
My brain hurts. My brain hurts. It pains me to say this because I'm going to tell a very quick story and then I will say my thoughts on this. 2010, I am at a point in my career. I'm at ESPN Radio in Hartford, iHeartRadio affiliate. I'm wondering what the hell am I doing with my life? You know, I'm in my 30s, kind of have bounced around the industry. I don't know if I'm making it, if I'm good, if I'm not good. I have nobody giving me any sort of coaching because I was working for a bunch of music program directors who knew nothing about sports talk. And I get a phone call out of the blue one day, and it's Colin Cowherd, who had gotten my number from a producer, said, I really enjoy your work. I listen to you every day on the way home from doing Sports Nation. Let's have dinner. Takes me out to dinner. Fancy place in Hartford. Fleming's was the name of the steakhouse. And before the breadbasket arrives, he looks at me dead in the eye and says, I've traveled this whole country. He goes, you're one of the most talented. Actually, he said, you're one of the top 3 most talented solo sports talk show hosts I've ever heard. Don't give it up. And there was a lot of other advice given and stuff like that. And we remained in contact over the years. Now, unfortunately, since going to Fox Sports and FS1, it pains me to say this because I think the world of him. He's become Bill Maher in sports talk. He's become Boomer, and I don't mean Boomer Esiason, screaming at the clouds. He's become Boomer yelling at the tree or telling the kids to get off his front lawn. Don't wear your hat backwards. I mean, really? Really, Colin? I mean, that's the line. You couldn't listen to anything. If you can't listen to anything that was being said between J.J. Redick and LeBron James because of a hat, there's medication for it because it's called ADD. You need to go and get some.
This is interesting, right? I think that Colin has gotten to a point in his career, and obviously Jason's got a much different relationship with him than I do. I remember watching him when I got home from school when I was 10 years old. And I did that religiously because Sports Nation was one of my favorite shows on TV. Mm-hmm. I think that Colin has kind of strayed towards this direction that very few people are fit to host in such a way in sports talk. Obviously, there are some very famous names who have done it very eloquently, but that is the constant my way or the highway. This is how it needs to be about minutia, like this. There are people who can do that very effectively, and they have massive audiences. They're given entire channels on Sirius XM radio. Yeah. But Colin's just not that. He's never been that kind of guy. So I don't understand, to me at least, why he's trying to be something that's straying away from what's made him so successful over the course of time.
He always had a smartest guy in the room routine, and I know for a fact that in his older days, he was a huge nut about prep and used to prep in different ways that a lot of hosts didn't. I'm privy to some of this. This sort of stuff, though, it's lazy. It's lazy. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Thanks, Bob Nightengale. Thanks, Sam.